This is a tutorial on the cancellation form, cancellation of purchase form 106. We'll start here by entering the property address. You'll print the buyer names and then the seller names. Now here you're going to check the box, which party's canceling, and then you're going to put the reason. So typically a buyer will be the party canceling, and the buyer will be canceling citing a paragraph, let's say the inspection or loan contingencies. So you'll check this box here and write in the paragraph. Sometimes both parties throw their hands up, and you can check per mutual agreement. If a notice to perform has been sent to the other party and 2 days have passed without that party performing the action specified in the notice to perform, then you can check this box here. And then the party that's canceling will sign here, and that's it. A lot of times people get confused with the cancellation form, and they think that both parties have to agree to cancel in order for it to be valid. That's not the case. Now, you could argue that in a situation of pure mutual agreement, both parties need to, but typically what happens is when a cancellation is drafted, it's usually by one party, namely the buyer during a contingency period, or either party if they've given the other party a notice to perform and it hasn't been performed or exercised. So a seller might ask a buyer to remove contingencies, and if 2 days go by and the buyer hasn't, the seller can check this box right here and sign here, and this cancels the transaction unilaterally. That does effectually cause the transaction to be canceled. And we come down here to the second half. Now this is different but related. This relates to the deposit that's held in escrow and how that money is going to be returned to parties, because escrow cannot refund an earnest money deposit unless it has mutually signed instructions. And by mutually signed, I mean that both parties have executed a document with their signatures instructing escrow to disperse of the earnest money a certain way. So here, and what's typical, especially if a buyer's canceling in the contingency period, which is the most common, you'll write the escrow number, the escrow company, and then you'll check this box. Box A, parties agree to release the buyer deposit less any costs incurred by the buyer. And that is, of course, if a buyer has incurred a cost and sent a bill to escrow to be paid out of their deposit, it allows escrow to pay that bill the buyer incurred and authorized. And this returns the deposit back to the buyer. There are other options here depending on the agreement or scenario by both parties in the cancellation. I'm just showing you what's the most common. The nice part is on this form there are these other lines here in terms of the reason for cancellation, and here on how to disperse the earnest money deposit. So if there's some unique scenario, it can be written in here, and then both parties are going to sign, because these are the instructions for escrow, and escrow requires signatures from both parties. So we have the top half, which is the cancellation, and it's signed by the party initiating the cancellation. And then you have the bottom part, which serves as instructions to release the earnest money deposit to escrow, and this section requires both parties to sign. And there might be a dispute regarding this area here in terms of how the deposit is dispersed. But this form is really two forms in one, because if one party has canceled, and I should preface it by saying that they have the ability to unilaterally cancel, like a buyer does in the contingency period, or either party does if one of the parties hasn't performed in a timely manner, then this alone, even if the bottom part's blank, this alone cancels the transaction. The matter that will later need to be addressed is what happens to that earnest money deposit, because it will sit in escrow indefinitely until both parties agree on how to disperse that money. And that will conclude the cancellation document. Thank you for watching.